area. Continues to live here. Was a school teacher, French and English. Works at the Republican. She just said for 15 years she's been at the Rensselaer Republican, so she knows everything. Her husband is a teacher in the high school, and she has 2 children, one a young lawyer and one a young pharmacist, Lynn and John. John's the older, Lynn's younger. And it was funny when I was listening to an old tape of Gwen and her mom came to visit and talk about my house. Lynn sounded much younger, but she was about 10 years old, and we must have had a little tea party for her. So Gwen is going to talk about her kennel house, and therefore it will tell you a lot about my house because it's the same family that built the 2 houses or are connected with the 2 houses. So I'd like to introduce Gwen Potter, and she will share her expertise on a wonderful old house, Jasper County style.
I have my flashlight because I have a few notes, so a couple things that need to be read. So
You want to do the?
okay. Okay, this is the front of the house as it has looked for the past 50 years. It's the house that now at 508 South Park Avenue was 509 Park Avenue. Before that was River Street, but it has been there the whole time. It was finished in the spring of 1891. I'm not sure how early it started, surely sometime in 1890 or before, by Emmett Kannal, and he got to live in it only a very short time because he died in July of 1891. So he was there not too long. I wanted to tell you a little bit about the family. The first Kannals that came from Ohio, from Emmett County, Ohio, were George Kannal and his wife Mary McCoy Kannal. And then some of her relatives came too, because that's McCoys that are on Milroy Avenue also. And when they came, they lived in a small frame house right across the street from Judy on the corner of Milroy and College, where Wakefield now live. The white picket fence around, and they had a fence around at the same time too. But that's where they first lived when they came, and they came with their son Emmett and his older sister, who was married, and her name was Elizabeth Hollingsworth, and her family all came at the same time. And the land that belonged to the Kannals ran at one time from the highway, or in College Avenue, to Park Avenue, and from Kannal Avenue over to the college. And it was bought, it found a warranty deed that was dated November the 19th, 1875, and recorded in January 4th, 1876. George Kannal bought 43 acres from Helen M. Martin. And in February 1885, 10 years later, George Kannal bought more acreage from Samuel and Lydia Scott. So, but that is the area that encompassed, and that's while Emmett Avenue with 1 T is named for Emmett Kannal with 1 T. Emmett Digger was named for Emmett Kannal with 1 T, but he got in the service and they put 2 T's on his name, so he kept it that way afterwards. So, but he started out with 1 T also. There's one block between Kannal and Emmett that's named Romaine, and that's for Irma Romaine Kannal, one of Emmett's sisters. And the block between Kannal and Emmett that is right there, corner where her home changes to Fleming Boulevard. If you look on city maps, that's Juno Street, really. Oh. And that's named for the other daughter, Juno. So I wanted to read you what the Rensselaer Republican wrote in April 30th, 1891. Emmett Cannell's new house is now practically completed, except a portion of the interior painting. In all respects, including size, convenience, and elegance of finish, and thoroughness of construction, it will rank among the very best residences in the town. That's the style of the time. The exterior, which like the interior, is after the very latest suburban models and very ornate. The interior finish is marvelously fine and includes quarter sod and antique oak, black ash, hackberry, and various other hard woods, all highly polished, and the extent and elegance of which doesn't seem to be appreciated. The building is thoroughly and in fact elaborately plumbed throughout, with hot and cold water in every part of the house. The plumbing alone costs as much as many entire houses in the town. The house is heated by hot air with the most complete heating apparatus. The furnace is in the cellar and with its attachments cost $500. A portable gas machine, also in the cellar, brilliantly lights the house. The machine having capacity for 70 lights. The same machine also supplies the magnificent gas cooking range in the kitchen and also the several grates in different rooms for use at times when a little warmth is needed and the furnace is not running. It's truly a splendid building, and henceforth no one has fully seen Rensselaer who has not seen Emmett Cannell's residence at the south end of River Street. So I have an old photo blown up that shows the house as it was originally from this view. And I was going to pass it around. We'll have to wait till the lights come on at intermission and you can see it. And this is another view of the house, and I have an old photo enlarged that shows about the same view from the driveway, looking to the, so that the north side shows as well as the east side. There was no, I'll tell you a little bit about, there was a front porch. This went all the way across the front with very ornate gingerbread work I had at the time, and there was a wooden porch on the south side of the house also, where the screened-in porch is now, that was very ornate and had wooden steps. Then it was modified to, after the fire, maybe I should tell you about the fire in 1912, burned off the third floor. They had a third floor room, similar to the one in the Thompson house, except it did not have the parquet floor that the one has there. And it was like a playroom, probably more than a ballroom. My grandfather had a billiards table, and the kids played up there. They even had a trapeze up there. So my mother and her sisters did. So in 1912, the top burned off. And that's why, unlike many Victorian houses, you don't see the tower on top. And you have that dormer and everything that were not there. This house has been modernized as it went along and has lost a lot of its Victorian look, especially on the outside because of the fire. And I'm sure many of you have heard the story that my mother was in the 8th grade in the school building that is now where Howell Gray Park is, and she looked out the window and she said to the teacher, "I have to go home, our house is on fire." She could see the fire from the school. And she went over to the elementary building and got her little sister and said to her teacher, "We're going home, our house is on fire." So they walked home to the fire. This is the south side of the house. This is where the was a porch at the same time, with only there were wooden steps, and it was very ornate also, and open, not screened in. This is probably my favorite view of the house, because it's the side, for one thing, that was used. And originally, there was no carport there. What was called portico all my life. So I know that's the portico, was not there. It was just straight up and down. You stepped up one step and went in the house. And you can see that on the old photos that I have. And also with no garage, it was just straight down as it is now if you had been past. If you went past about 10 days ago, you could see what it looked like at the time, because it makes it look much more Victorian with the garage off. And first there was just a cement stoop. You have a picture of that with a pump. And then they built a back porch later, and then of course later after that they added on the garage. So we're going to go in through that side door under the portico there. When you enter the drive door, on your left is a little cloak room. And it's always been called cloak, not coat. So evidence of the time when it was first named, I'm sure. Because I've always known as the cloak room. You step down a step and there's a little place to hang your coat and a place to put your hat and look in the mirror. And then you go up 3 steps and you're into the hall. If you turn right, you will be in the dining room. This is in the dining room looking out to the north. The room is big enough to stretch a table that holds 16 people in it. That's as many as I've ever known to be there, would be 16 at the dining room table. The stained glass on this window, I prefer to really all the stained glass in the stairway because of the color of it. And it's exactly repeated upstairs, and the bedroom above has the same stained glass. There it is. A bit closer. And again, looking the other way. This is the alcove of the dining room. You can see the fretwork in the red oak trim. We have the architect's plan written up for the house, and he says red oak everywhere downstairs, except the kitchen, which has white pine, and upstairs has a select Georgia white pine, keeps saying throughout. Although that mentioned other kinds of wood, and I have always heard about California eucalyptus, probably because nobody ever would forget the term California eucalyptus. But somewhere in the house there's California eucalyptus, but this is supposed to be red oak downstairs. Now in the alcove, the dining room is floor-to-ceiling storage. So we found last year in those very top cabinets that no one ever gets into, we found all the shades for the gas jets. And a lot of the gas jets themselves. So we have a couple of complete lights, and there were many globes and new wicks were stored there that had never been used, and I suppose that cabinet had not been opened since the gas lights were stored there. That'd be my guess on what it was. But it was out of the way, and if you have a place to put stuff, you don't throw it away, I guess. You just put it in there, so that's what we always did. Right underneath the doors and right above the drawers, there are boards that pull out to set food on. The door on our left, those 2 doors open all the way through to the hallway on the other side, so that people could serve from the hallway and just pass it through to the dining room without ever having to come in. This is in that hallway, looking at the bathroom that was made from the dumbwaiter. I'll show you more about the dumbwaiter later, but it's even interesting in the modern here because that little tiny lavatory stand comes from a Monon train. That's the only place they could find anything that small to put in there. And they made this downstairs half bath. And you can see the wainscoting here the best too. The wainscoting was covered, I think, sometime in the 40s by linoleum. and again, an updating as he went along that, but the wainscoting is under there. And this is the pantry off of the kitchen. Again, it's floor-to-ceiling storage. And you can see where the black linoleum is, but that is wainscoting underneath. This is the, what was always called the storm room. It goes out to the garage now. It'd probably be called, I don't know, probably be utility room maybe nowadays. But it was called storm so that you didn't have to, because they're not having to open both doors at once and let the cold air in when there was no garage. The kitchen really is not that much to see, particularly with the wainscoting covered up, but we're going to go to the basement while we're in the kitchen. This is where the dumbwaiter came down to the basement level. And you can see even the corner guard down in the basement. And in the summertime, they cooked in the basement, I guess, what I understand. And that's why the dumbwaiter goes down there in the, but this is probably the favorite room. This is the milk room, because there's a trough where you pump the cold water in and set the milk and everything else to keep it cool before the days of refrigerators. Going back upstairs, this is the living room. The first of the three fireplaces is on your right there, but we're looking south, and the door goes onto the screened-in porch. This is the fireplace in the living room. One of the few things there were prices mentioned in the plans of the architect. The architect was from Chicago, had an address in the Opera House building. Is that the three mantles cost $50 each. And so this is looking into the library. We're just to the left of the fireplace. It has glass bookcase doors. It was built as a library, but I think they must have also had in mind that it might be something else at times because one of the built-in lavatories is there. And it served as it's always served as a sick room if there was somebody who couldn't get up upstairs. And my grandfather was crippled with arthritis and an invalid for several years, number of years, and that was his bedroom downstairs. It was my playroom downstairs, but it was started to be a library. There you can see. The lavatories are Italian marble. That one isn't working at the present time, as far as I know. We're standing in what was called a parlor looking into the living room because there's the same fireplace. This is a place where you can see the ceramic tile insets in the woodwork. And that is in this parlor, which of course was the main living room, drawing room, whatever for company. It always housed the piano in our day, and the Victorian furniture was always left in there, so obviously nobody sat in there. You want to sit on Victorian furniture, which is fragile and very uncomfortable. Oh. This is looking out the east through the parlor window. There is a story to the window. During the fire of 1912, I guess this size window was unusual, and they were worried about how to save it. But there was a retired Chicago fireman living in Rensselaer, And he told the local fireman what to do to save the window, which I guess at the time would not have needed if he hadn't have been there. After the fire, the family, which I never really got any farther, did I, than George and Mary and their son Emmett. Emmett married Mary Ellen Duck from Ohio, from his home area. And they came back here and lived in Judy's house and had the 3 children. My grandfather, Harvey, or H.J. Kannal, who was the veterinarian, and his 2 younger sisters, Juno Kannal Eager and Irma Kannal Parker. Irma stayed in the house with her husband where Judy lives until her death. And of course, Juno lived in the house behind. So they all pretty well stayed there. Who lived in the house at the time I'm talking about is my grandfather. When Emmett Kannal, my great-grandfather, built the house, he moved the family there. And he died in 1891, and his wife and the 3 children lived there until 1895, when my grandfather married. And then the mother and the 2 daughters moved back to Judy's house, and my grandfather and grandmother lived here from the time they were married. And they had the 3 daughters, Gertrude, Gwendolyn, and Mary Elizabeth. And those were the 3 girls that lived here as children. This is the 2 inside doors with frosted glass to the main front doors. The front doors have not been used since the days of the front porch. And I can remember once or twice being on the front porch. It was the porch was taken off in 1945. After my grandfather died, my grandmother did some updating. And I like the frosted glass better than the stained glass even. And there you can see more of the ceramic tile and the woodwork. That just showing open to the vestibule to the front door. This is the clock that everybody has heard about, I guess. And it looks like it just belongs in that spot. And many people have asked if that was built for the clock, and it was not. It was just a tower in a Victorian house. In fact, the clock didn't come to the house until 1930. And my great-grandmother Alter died. And she lived in the house that is across the street from the post office to the south where Odoms lived. And if you look, there's towers on that house too. And I just wonder if the clock might not have set in the tower there also. But it was her clock, and it was not brought to this house until her death. So the clock with everything on top of it is about 11 feet 6 inches. And the ceilings are 12 feet, I believe. This, see what it,
Oh, we're slipping.
yeah, we're slipping.
It looks like your slide's on the back end there, Glenn.
Oh,
What?
slide.
Your slide's
back
coming out
up,
on the top
maybe.
too. It looks like the slide didn't go all the way down.
Oh, that's what yeah. That's
You
what-
were having trouble last.
Yeah.
Huh. Well,
Did we just break on you?
Yeah, hang on a second. There's something extra.
that'll help.
Yeah, oh, that's enough, yeah, thank you.
Oh.
Oh, look at the size of it.
Okay, this shows the second fireplace. You see the marble. And the hearth is also, you can kind of see the 2 faces. of the corner. On the right side, it's a man, long white hair and white beard, as I recall, and the woman on the other side, we're not quite sure. The woman reminds you like of a Greek goddess or something. I don't know what they're supposed to be. That is probably brass under the blackened fireplace, and the seat there, it's built in. And this is first look at the stairway, where then it's all open and those little knobs are now, was all fretwork. And my grandmother modernized that too. And, and had all the little knobs made by Donnelly's planing mill. And they're on the top too, you can see in a minute I think, so that they're made so well that they just fit in the top and do not fall out. In fact, one of the best pictures probably, and there's another picture of the fireplace as a stairway. And what's on the top there was similar to what was in the open space. And there's a piece and pieces from the open space. There were lots of pieces like that in the basement, and I don't know if they were all there to be built back in or not. But there, some of it to show you what it looked like. There's the stained glass windows as you start up the stairs. And the clear glass at the top is beveled. This is standing up at the top of the stairs, looking at the stained glass. I'm told that the circles are what they call bullseye in stained glass, and they are made by pricking a bubble. And I don't know if there's people who work with stained glass, they would know, but that's what I've been told. This is upstairs in one of the front bedroom. You're right over the dining room, and you can see it has the same alcove as the dining room and almost some of the same fretwork. And I don't have a picture of it, but this is the bedroom that has the same stained glass as below it, in the dining room. Another was built-in laboratory. We're in the long hall upstairs. The first little cabinet is a telephone. The second, the door is to the attic. It's originally the third floor, but is now just plain attic. And the next set of doors is a cabinet which was the top, the second floor of the dumbwaiter. So the dumbwaiter, I imagine it went to the third floor too, I don't know, but it definitely opened on the second floor and on the ground floor and in the basement. And you can see back down the hall into the bathroom, and on the right, you turn to a small bedroom, the one bedroom that is really rather small. We're going to turn left down here just before we go in the bathroom now. There's the clothes chute. And the full door, it's a very narrow door, and it's a luggage closet. It's made for it. It's very narrow. You can walk in, if you don't have claustrophobia, you're all right. And it's open way up top. There's a high shelf, and it's open to the top, so trunks and everything could be stored there in the days when people came and stayed long times. Just going right down a few steps there and turning right into this room, which in my lifetime was always a storage room, but was built as a maid's room because it's at the top of the back stairs. And it's a small room. I would say there's wallpaper peeled off the wall. I imagine it's the original wallpaper because that's the only thing I know it's been used as was the maid's room. They didn't have a maid. When the little girls were small, they had, I'm more like a nanny, I would guess. It's a Swedish girl that came over from Sweden and, like many were at the time, and hired to come and help with the housekeeping stuff. And the little girls took their first grade readers and taught her English from them. And she led them for quite a while, a number of years. And Gerda, I think was her name. Right before you go in, it was at the, when we back up a little. Right there, that window you can see, there was a balcony out there, and I can remember that balcony before it came up, I think about the same time as the front porch, but I couldn't get out there. It was about because I felt it was too rickety, but I remember wanting to be out in the balcony. And on the left, you start down the back stairs. Just showing you the back stairway. Okay, we're in the large south bedroom. This is the sitting room of that bedroom with the glassed-in bookcase and the third fireplace. All the fireplaces were plugged a long time ago. One reason, because squirrel came down the woods. That was enough to decide to plug the fireplaces. So they are bricked shut, but I think can be opened. And the fire was apparently started, as long as we're talking about the chimney going, from a bird's nest on the chimney. The best they can figure out. I think that's what caused it. And I don't know what they continued to use fireplaces for a long time after that or not. There you can see into the sitting room, and you're in the bedroom area of that bedroom with the third marble washstand. And that continued to work. It's my grandmother's bedroom and her upstairs sitting room, and she used that royal light. And you can see through the door, the bedroom, out into the hall to the railing at the stairway. And you can see the open transom. All the bedroom upstairs have transom to open for ventilation, so you can still keep your door shut in here. And that's a closet door there you see too. And more fretwork, because this room is directly above the library. You see, the sitting room is the same size as the living room, and the bedroom part is the same size as the library. This is one of the other bedroom doors. The reason we have this picture is because of the door knockers. The door knocker is the only thing I wish I had from the house. And I didn't think I should take them off and leave a hole in the door. So I didn't. But every bedroom had its own door knocker. This one matched the blue, the inside of the room was blue wallpaper, and the door knocker was blue. And there was that one with the house, and one with the bird, and one with the basket of flowers. In that bedroom, we don't have a slide up, but it's just a large square room like the parlor below it. We can see the wood floors there, and so many times I was asked about hardwood floors, and does not have hardwood floors. Finally found out, I read the plans, and it was never to have hardwood floors. In the, they're pine boards about 3 inches wide. And you can see it in this, and because I couldn't remember ever having what it was like underneath the carpeting downstairs, but I found it where it was all to be pine. The next room on the left is the front bedroom over the front steps in my room, and this is the little tower above where the clock was in that tower. You see it, but it's almost the same. There's a lamp still sitting there that was on the wall that was over a dressing table. But I had the smaller bedroom. And it had a balcony out also over the front porch. And you can see I passed show you the picture of the house originally, the ornate gingerbread around that, as well as down on the porch. We're back to the house at the beginning. There are several stories that are kind of about the area at the time that are kind of interesting. There was nothing on that block other than the house. And in fact, there was nothing on that block until that house until 1946. And everything since then has, the first house was Blackhall's on to the west, and then gradually the whole block was sold off in lots. And the house on M Avenue, that was all part of the Kannal land, and the farmland behind it until modern times was also Kannal land. And my mother always told me about the Indian school, St. Joe, that the Indians would walk through the field, and Indian style, and they would damage the crops, but automatically every year St. Joe paid my grandfather money for the damage the Indians did every year. It's just an automatic bill they paid. And I think there was a park down there where Babcock was one time. And I've heard that the gypsies camped there. And the kids were always afraid they were going to be stolen by the gypsies. Because they were right there. And the circus was down there once and had their kids close by, and my grandfather was invited to eat breakfast with them. I think that was something that they remembered very well. On the old picture you can see back to the back of the house when you're looking at the one ground, you'll see a barn. And you can see it from the other angle also. It would be in Eugene's backyard, I think is about right where it was, I think. And I think my grandfather ran his veterinary practice from there. As far as I know, he didn't have an office anywhere, but I'm not really sure. Emmett Kannal had a drugstore. He graduated from the Philadelphia College of Pharmacy, which is still going, and had a drugstore and combination jewelry store downtown in, I'm trying to think where it is, exactly where to tell you. Along there where the dancing school is, close to the,
Dollar Store.
yeah, close to Dollar General, yeah. I think that unless there are any specific questions, that probably makes sense.
Questions? And she'll pass the pictures
Yeah, I'll get
around
the
while the
pictures,
lights
yeah.
are on.
Let me get the pictures.
How tall are the ceilings?
12 foot downstairs. I think 10 upstairs. Excuse me, I'm gonna have to get. No, I think I left it on the lectern.
Oh,
I can get it this one.
oh.
There was, my mother had prints made in the 1960s of a couple of pictures I didn't know about. And then Mike Campbell blew them up for me. And I'll start, I got two of the front view of the house.
The original.
The original, yeah, this is up until 1912. The big pine trees in front, they were all across the front on Park Avenue there at one time. And the last pine tree came down last week and up by the porch. Yeah, the one in the background of by the screened-in porch. And then there's a picture showing the driveway right now where the carport is, and you can see the barn in the background. And the other one, I'll start over here, is the house as it looked until, it's in the, picture is in the early 1940s, we figured out, because the porch is still there with the grapevines around it. And the car is probably early 40s rather than late 30s, I would say. So this is before.
Any questions?
Was there not much damage done to the downstairs? The fire was
No,
on the third floor? Or?
they had to move out, of course, because of the roof, and they moved to Grandmother Cannell's house, Judy's house, for a few days, and then they lived in the hotel downtown while it was being redone. But a couple of times in my lifetime, in 24 years I lived there, a couple of pieces of charred wood fell through the doorways. I guess I didn't point out that the pocket doors downstairs there in the living room and the parlor and the dining room area had pocket doors. And I have seen charred wood a couple of times, just a little piece fall down. So, no, there was, and in the windows, some of the windows are a little distorted. There in the dining room, the one window that kind of angled to the west is very distorted if you look out of it. It's from the heat of the fire.
What are those door knockers made of that you wanted to take but you didn't take? Are they ceramic? Or
Yeah, they're
are they-
ceramic, yeah. One of the men that moved all the furniture out for the sale said if I took them down, he wanted to buy them. And I said, no, if I take them down, I'm keeping them. I've got the clock. Yeah. Broken down in pieces for the time being, because I just have built the ceiling.
So you're building a house to put it in.
Put the clock in.
Anything else? Well then, before we, thank you. Well, you've gotten a little history of our house, and ours is the plain Jane compared to Gwen Potter's gorgeous Victorian, and you can see how it's changed, and our house has changed a little bit too over the years. It was built in the Victorian times, but it is not really a Victorian house. The curved top of the brick windows is very Victorian, and the transoms and the newel posts, you'll see evidence of a Victorian time. But our house is really not Victorian in style. It's more of an early Georgian style, and sometimes we think of Federal too, because Federal styles are more brick more often than the early Georgian homes, but they kind of go back and forth. Another reason I would say that it is a Georgian house is because of the floor plan. And it's a very simple floor plan. This is just a guide to old American houses. And it's a 4-room down, 4 rooms up. And that's the way it was built. Very plain. Center stairway. Originally there was a back staircase, but when they modernized, these Kannals were always modernizing, they took out the back staircase. And I guess I'm glad now, because it's our only really big closet that we have upstairs. That's our walk-in closet. And it's just a very basic chimneys, sometimes on the end, sometimes 2 in the center of the double rooms. And as you will see in the first picture, this shows a new kitchen. Well, originally, our kitchen was in a frame building towards Kenny's house. And it was a white frame, and we'll see that in the slide, the first slides. But I thought I'd show you, I'm out of breath. I thought I would show you the book first. And I guess afterwards, probably won't have time to show a lot of the pictures, but I did copy. Several of them are in the video. Good Place in Lafayette redid it. But one of the funny things is the beautiful tired wallpaper we tore off. And there are just evidences of that in a couple places. This is a paper talking about the wonderful old square piano that was in the house, and you will see that. It's a square piano, and it's very extraordinary, kind of a not very worthwhile piece because they don't last very long as far as their quality of playing, but it is quite an extraordinary piece of furniture. And then some of you probably saw these pictures. The person who lived in our house was a photographer. He had an octagon building downtown, Mr. Parker, and these were just some old pictures that Tim Eager gave us, and that's what we were lucky enough to have photographs from Tim. I guess I'll... Yeah. Oh, the Parker. Okay, I'll catch my breath, and we'll need the slides, and I'm just going to talk about our house because you've heard a little bit of the history of the Kannals. Now this is the earliest picture we have of the house, and you can see the white frame kitchen to the right. This is the way it was built, with a porch over the front door and a porch over the back. 2-story, you could walk out onto the porch, and of course in my lifetime I never saw it that way. You will see, as Kannals will want to do, there were some changes. Now Gwen mentioned an important point tonight that we're not aware of. The Kannals didn't come to Rensselaer until 1865. Tim Eager had on several of his scrapbooks at home that this was a Kannal home since 1860. So right there we have a little bit of a error some way. According to the assessor's office, there was a structure in this spot in 1854. We assumed it was not our house, but it is possible, I guess. You mentioned a Dr. Martin. You know, maybe somehow there was a structure and the Kannals bought it from him. I don't know. But as you see, the iron fence was there, and the big white pine, it's still there today, and the trumpet vine going up the white pine. And Bill Brown said that that trumpet vine would kill that tree. But since it's been there 140 years, I don't know that
Just give it time.
Give it time.
Don't speak too soon.
Right. Yeah. Right, it'll probably die this winter. We do have an old tree dying. Oh. Did I put this on the right way?
I think that's
This is the back of the same house. And you can see, again, the back door, originally, just a simple porch. The pump is to the back, and this is on Eager's side, the back of the yard. But as you see, right away, there they go again. Here's a porch clear across the front of the house. So they tore off the 2-story porch. They built a wide porch, and it has round posts. Well, this isn't long for this world because look at this one. Now it's got square posts. And that is about the time that they made a lot of changes in the house, when they must have taken out the back staircase. The side summer kitchen was gone. This, you see in the right of the house, there's a porch, and it swung an L shape across the back. The upstairs door is bricked up. You can see evidences of the original door. There is etched glass, and we'll see that as we go. And this is a modern picture. And I think originally there were no basement windows. Here there are, and we have closed up the basement windows again because of deterioration. But you see the well house. There is a pump in there. That well house is still there, and we use it as our back entrance, but you get a little different view. That's not my husband's car. I'll show you his. Oh, I don't know if we have his Triumph picture in here. But this was a sleeping porch. Tim Eager remembers sleeping on it, and even his daughter, Kannal-Myers, remember wonderful days. And it was my favorite place, too. But again, weather is hard on old houses. This is a funny picture. In fact, our chimney's gone. This is really rack and ruined here. But it says, "Don't wait for the hearse to take you to church." So I don't know the story behind this, but it looks like our house is a little worse for wear there. This is a happy family picture. I'm not sure who's who. It looked like the man on the right looks like a kind of like Tim, but I don't know who he would be, what relative he would be. Now this is the way the house looked when we moved in here in 1968. So here's another porch, the fourth one that we're aware of. It was just kind of a farmhouse porch, not very fancy, and it was a little tired when we moved in. When we moved in, the house had been empty for 10 years. The fence was overgrown with trumpet vine. There had been heat in the house. Tim kept, there was a little bit of furniture left, so he kept heat there for just the safety and of the upkeep of the house. Oh, there's Michael's car. We love that Triumph. And again, a little different than the earlier picture of a car you saw there. But you can see the wear, the tired part of the shades. We were lucky that there were two beautiful maples, and it always seemed like when one maple glowed and like the front maple does, the other one would be subdued, and vice versa. Every year we would have one maple. We lost the one on the south that you can hardly see, and we're losing this one. This was bricked up when we moved in. It had the whole base is all bricked, stoned up, and we're finally losing it, I'm afraid. Probably have to come down next summer. Another view of that same front porch. This is the way the house looks now, and this was this summer. Early in the 70s, Mike and I trekked to Williamsburg and saw the Wythe House. I think it's W-Y-T-G. And there were so many similarities between our house and that house, even though there was, 100 or 2 years between the building of them. And our front porch was deteriorating so badly, we just put those stairs that are very much like some of the houses in Williamsburg. Where the ivy is where the upstairs doorway was. You can see the threshold stone above the door. That was where the porch would have come out. It would have walked out, the threshold stone, whatever, I can't remember what it's called. And that's as it is today. And we did make a color change. Didn't think we ever would. This is the cellar door, and it's my what used to be my studio. That's part of the porch that we did keep. Don't paint much there anymore, but maybe one of these days. The cellar door, the kids, Matt probably remembers, sliding on the cellar door. And there's the entrance to the basement, as you have. On the well house, this is Kannal-Myers sitting as a young girl, for those that know Marianne. We changed the entrance a little bit. Again, wood seems to rot, and we don't have a door on our well house right now. But that's our back entrance. That's the way it looks now. Same well house, little color change. There's the pump. And I heard that it had the most wonderful clear well water, and a lot of people would come and catch a fresh drink in the old days. But according to what I've heard, it needs new leathers, and of course we don't have that. I guess you're not supposed to have a well in the city, so it would be interesting to see if we could bring it back. In 1980, we added on the back end of the house. The left two windows are the garage, and the center two are where the carport used to be, and is the kitchen. And it's open too. We bricked and tried to keep the same flavor of the house. You can see the etched windows around the door. Our original door, Mike made the door a little smaller because it had a big crack in it, the original door did. And we've gone modern with the steel door, but the original door has a wonderful doorbell, and I keep trying to figure out, you crank it, and of course kids love to play with that. So hopefully we can put that in one of the other doors. This is from the inside of the house. And you can see the etched, and there's some bevel to some of those glasses too. And a couple of the windows are cracked, and I don't know if the kids would know anything about that, but that happens. And this is as you're walking into the door. You can see the front hall is very small. The hall goes back, you can see the dining room, the parlor is on the left, the library is on the right, and you can see to the back door, that's the back door into the garage, way back there. The house does have transoms, again, for air circulation. The newel post I have seen in, I'm trying to remember if it was a Morse Butler house in Indianapolis or the Riley home. One of those two houses has that same newel post, a little bigger, but the same vintage. And again, the transoms were very obvious in those houses too. This is the only good wood in the house. The stairway seems to be walnut, but I'll talk more about the wood as I go. This is the front hall, a little different view. A piece of furniture Michael put together, an old family bronze that I grew up with, old mirror family pieces. Now this is the way the parlor looked as we were scraping wallpaper. For those of you who have been through that, it was the most tortuous experience because all of the downstairs rooms, the dining room, parlor, and library had one layer of wallpaper. And they must have used super glue because it was then papered or painted over. And it was horrible. We had college kids scraping this room for over a year. And it was just not pleasant. We had finally sanded the paint off and soaked the paper off. It was somewhat tedious. Now that's the piano, the square knobby piano. It allegedly was a wedding gift. Came by buckboard, or dray as Bessie Grant called it, in about 1872, although it is an older piano than that. Oops. Look the wrong way. Now this is the same way the parlor looks today. We did move the piano, had a piano moving party. 6 husky guys helped us take the legs off, slide it on a blanket into the dining room, which you'll see later. The rocker is originally from the house. We bought it from Tim Eager, who sold us the house in '68. And we bought the house when Mike was a senior and graduated mid-year in January from IU's law school. And instead of going to the Rose Bowl, I think one of the few times IU ever went to the Rose Bowl, we put a big $500 down payment on the house. We thought that was a lot, but and then Michael came back to study and practice for his bar exam, and I finished school and we moved in June that year. This is the parlor. This is old Mike's grandmother Mimi's chair. That's looking from the parlor into the hallway and into the library. That doorway we think is not original. It doesn't, that woodwork matches none of the other woodwork in the house. So we think the doorway was just like the one across the hall. But again, Victorian, 1890s, maybe they widened it just to give, because the hallway is very small. Now you see that door, that's going into the library, and this again is typical of Victorian houses. It's a painted wood grain, and all of the woodwork was done that way. It's just probably old pine underneath, but they spent a lot of time, you see it in England a lot, and you'll see it in Victorian houses. Again, a couple in Indianapolis had the same characteristics, but they wood grain it with different kinds of materials and special brushes. It was quite an art. That was an old bookcase. My dad, I think the only piece of furniture he ever refinished. And those we're kind of proud of. You can't see those, but those are Mike's appointments to the District Court and the 7th Circuit Court of Appeals by President Reagan. So Ronnie's name is there. This is the library's original fireplace. The house did not have fireplaces. This was not here when the house was built. It was very modern of the day, so there were pot-bellied stoves in all of the rooms, basement, bedrooms, everything, because you see those little circles in the wall. So again, when they did like the big addition, took off the kitchen, we think they put this in also. The funny things on top are, we bought in an auction, they are pieces of the courthouse. Some office dismantled, some of the decorations, so they were from there. So if anybody, if we could ever put them back, it'd be nice. I'm not sure quite where they came from. But it isn't a very pretty fireplace. So Michael, in his handier days, built this fireplace around that brick and some more book space. It's kind of like books. And this is Mike's old saddle, and this is looking into what originally was the kitchen. When we moved in, it was the kitchen, not originally. But it is now a TV room. This is the way the kitchen looked when we moved in, with the pump and the sink, all fancy. And to the right of this sink, you'll see the door that originally went out to a summer kitchen years ago. This must have been like a service area. There was a stove right next to the toilet. And I guess it's Mrs. Parker, who lived in the house, aged, she lived downstairs. And so it was real handy. She just, I guess, could take care of a couple things. But this is the way the kitchen looked. And you see the window to the left. That is one thing we did change. They are now bookcases because we added on a kitchen, and I didn't want to totally ruin in case somebody wanted to go back to the original house, so those windows could be put back in, but we made them into bookcases. And you can see the books there. In fact, the second painting, you see the ribbon at the top, that's Kate's from high school, but the picture below that is Nancy Johnson's. I bought that from her a long time ago. And she did that picture of still life, and it was in a dorm I lived at IU, so there were personal connections there. They were able to have art classes there. This is the other end, and like Gwen said, this is a lot of storage area, and behind that TV cabinet is an open door. I move that around from time to time, but it goes through to the dining room. So when this was a kitchen, when we moved in, you could pass things through to the dining room, but obviously you can't now. And this you see from the TV room into the dining room. And you're in the dining room looking back into the TV room and into the porch that's towards Kenny's old house. And I think we're going to see the porch, see Jim and Mary's house to the west of us. And that's what was my studio, can often be a storeroom. I'd love to open it up and make it into a screened-in porch again, so that's my hope for the future. This is the dining room when Harry Parker, who married Irma Kannal, he was not only a photographer, he was a high school football coach, and obviously they're having some kind of a gathering of celebration. I guess he was pretty good. But you can see the wonderful lace curtains and the wide decoration of the wallpaper at the top. And there was a picture molding all the way around you can paint pictures from. Our table is not quite that long now. It is a big old table from Ida Nagel because we did stick the piano in the corner. And you see the piano is pretty big. It's, I can't remember how wide it is. 8 feet, 7 feet? And the table's from Ida Nagel. She said they used to serve in the basement. They used to serve all these people who helped with threshing at it. And it's got about 6 leaves to it. And there's the piano, and it's a beautiful rosewood. The legs are not rosewood. You see a cat in the window too. This is the way, another picture of the dining room, but not when we had it. This was when Kannals lived there. And that's that same view. Just paintings we collected, a couple of mine, and some we collected, relatives and more. Plate rail still there that was there originally. This is going into the kitchen, the new part, and I say how we're doing okay on time. Michael put in the cabinets, we ordered them, and he did all the woodwork, put in all the window trim. Bill Daniels built the addition for us, and he kept asking me what kind of floor I wanted. I kept saying wood floor, and he totally ignored me. So when it was finally ready to do, the kitchen floor is about 3/4 of an inch taller than the other floor in the dining room, because he really didn't believe that anybody would want a wood floor in the kitchen. It's held up beautifully, but it was after the time the kids were messy stage, so it holds up pretty well. The old diamond die cabinet was something my dad had in a drugstore when I was growing up in Greencastle. We had a big old house, very Victorian, in Greencastle. So I guess there's something about old houses in my family. Some of you might have noticed that funny wing chair. It was down at the shop and it didn't sell, so I brought it home. There are some benefits, I guess, but that's just the door to the garage. This is you'll see the brick in a minute. We didn't change the brick. The exposed part of the brick of the house is there. We just enjoy the brick because it's beautiful. It weathered well. They cleaned it, but they didn't sandblast it or anything. And under the picture to the left of the lamp are Irma and Juno's initials that they carved into the wall. I always thought my girls would do that, but they haven't done it yet. Yeah, they're underneath Michael's pictures. Those two pictures are kind of curious. One of the most famous cases Michael oversaw was the Smith trial here in our court in Jasper County. And it was from the Hollandford murders where 4 young men went in and shot 4 brothers and a mother. The mother happened to survive because she had a wig on. And we had one of the kids tried here. And those were from a Chicago TV show, or TV drawing, because they couldn't do photographs. And Stalag 13, Michael was in that his freshman year at St. Joe. He was at St. Joe for a year, and then I got to meet him at IU when he traveled that way. This is the other end, and you can see the brick wall. We didn't, close up the brick. We just put louvered covers over the windows that we kind of covered over when we added on. And you see our messy coat rack at the end. But the door to the west is into my studio porch. And at the end where the hats and all are, that's the exit, the way to get into the well house. This is an old computer, and this is the exit, the other view of the well house, Eager's garage. These are the pictures I brought, and this is the definition of the stairway. And we're going upstairs. Again, you can see we kept a few of the doors with the painted green. That would have been the upstairs doorway to the old porch. And then it became a summer porch, and now it's Annie's room. There it is again, you can see the wood grain. This is the way the hall looked when we moved in, and we still don't have a decent light fixture up there because all the walls are brick except the one on the right. All the inner walls are brick, and you just don't put light fixtures in real easily. So we need to figure out and chisel, which we have done in other rooms, chisel into the wall, make light switches and so forth, or come down into the wardrobes. But you again see the floor, wonderful wide board floors, but we've never taken up the linoleum. It is stuck tight again. It is so horrible. I've tried to melt it off. Nothing seems to work, so we did put carpet down. But I'd love to have the wide board floors exposed. And you can see the door still looks like a door, sort of. But it doesn't open. The top part might. But again, some frosted and double glass there. This is the way it looks now, and I just went crazy and painted it yellow because it seems so cheerless. I haven't even put the pictures back up that need to go up there since we painted. Of course, that's been over a year. Again, this is the graining, wood graining, the way the house looked when we moved in. This is our room, just a corner of it. 4-poster bed, old dresser of Mike's folks. First lamp we ever bought, funny old piece that wobbles and wiggles. Now this is the most beautiful piece of furniture we have in the house. It was in the house when we moved there. It looks very similar to the Lincoln bed in the White House, if you ever see that. It might not be quite as grand, but it's pretty close. It is walnut, and it's in almost mint condition. Although it was funny one time this summer, you know how moisture kind of comes and goes in the houses. One of the big medallions at the top had just fallen off, so we re-glued it. But that's the only problem we've ever had with that. And that's the guest bed, and we did buy that from Eagers as we did the piano when we moved in. The clock was an old family piece. The Victorian red velvet furniture is rosewood. That's what I grew up with. It had a hard life because that was what we sat on. And as Gwen said, she didn't like Victorian furniture very well. Well, I did because I'm short. And so one of my favorite chairs to sit in is the Victorian squatty short one. This is the dresser that it goes along with the bed. There is a piece of gym equipment in there. That's Mike's workout room. And you can kind of see we've got it right in the middle. But that's an old settee, and I remember after a party my brother had, the couch, the little settee, love seat was split in half. Because high school guys aren't very genteel, I guess. And this is going into the hall. This is an old family piece of mine, again, that fit in that old house in Greencastle where I grew up, and it was always a part of our house. This is a funny old bed that was in the house too, and this is Kate's room. It's usually pretty pitiful. See, there's a box under the bed and more, but we cleaned it up a little bit. But this is a funny bed. It's a double springs. It was in the house. And if she's fine on it, but when she has a friend stay, or I remember when we first moved in, a couple slept there, they would either roll to the center or roll to the sides. It's a funny old thing. And that's in her room, the wardrobe. There are 2 wardrobes upstairs, all her toys and collectibles. This is what used to be the sleeping porch. We made a window seat. Turned out kind of dark, but Mike, this was another handy project he did before he became the mobile judge. He was very good, but doesn't seem to have the energy of the time now. He made it all in the funny old pine and did a nice job. Beautiful workmanship. But this is Annie, we kind of call it the bowling alley room. This is the bathroom. Probably one of my favorite rooms because It is large. When we moved in, it did have a shower thing above, but we did take that off because it wasn't real great with the shower curtain kind of sticking to you as you took a shower. The window is for light because that was the back stairway, the space to the right. That's now our walk-in closet. Just another view. That wardrobe was also in the house. I have a lot of bad things in there as far as clutter, but it's very handy for keep jewelry and towels and that kind of thing. The chair was just one of the first pieces we ever bought. And again, there are louvers where the windows have been closed up because of the bedroom to the south of there now. This is the attic stairway. You can't really see the attic entrance unless you really look, but it's right by the bathroom. Stairs go straight up. I'm about the only one that ever goes up there. Sorry I ever put anything up there either. It's loaded. This is the basement stairway, and you see the brick. In fact, this is a good point to bring out. If you look at the brick, the outside of the house is the same way, and I think it's called common brick because, you know, the mortar's flush, and you see a row of ends of brick, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 side bricks, and then another row of end of bricks. And we did that on the outside too, kept that when we added the addition. It's called a common style brickwork. There's the old pump that was in the basement. I'm trying to think if this was the cistern pump. It might have been. We poured cement in the cistern because it was deep and big, but it's still there. This is just an old picture showing a snowy day. I don't know why that's there. Put the flags in for the bicentennial. And then we're back to the original picture with Kenny's on the west. The trees are still there. There was a dirt road. And that must have been, I can't tell if Eager's house is there or not. Might have been before the Eagers built their house. That's it. I don't know if you have any questions about the house. Again, Irma Parker left the house to Tim Eager, who always hoped, I think, to move into the house, but Dorothy never would let him. And rightly so. They have a wonderful house, or had a wonderful house next door. And I think that's about any questions. The kids down the street used to call it the feather house because of the giant ivy, and the ivy's been there forever. It doesn't hurt the house. There's no deterioration because the ivy's there. But it's been there a while. It's very comfortable and it's very simple. All the wainscoting, the ceiling code that Michael added. It was just a very kind of plain Jane, but very sound. Like I said, all the walls but one are the double brick, real wide.
I have a question about the yard. I noticed in the springtime all the spring bulbs blooming. Did you plant them or have they always been there?
They've always been there. I wish I were a flower person because I love flowers, and maybe as I slow down, I will work in the yard. I would like to do that because it could be pretty. And an English garden would just be wonderful. It's the kind of thing, kind of a loose collection of flowers. Well, we really don't, although, it was a Kannal home, but there was a house called by Dr. Martin, but we have no information. Tim just said it was always a Kannal home, so we assumed it was built by
Dr.
them.
Martin from Rensselaer?
I don't know if he was born here, and I don't know what kind of a doctor he was.
Well, Dr. Martin delivered her.
Okay, it was it would
I
have
don't know if it's the same one or not.
Probably not. Probably not. Yeah, somebody said it had been a stop for the, like a hotel. Stagecoach, but that wasn't correct. It also was a rooming house for a short time, because when Phil Wood moved here, he stayed upstairs where the guest room is. And so she did, as, her husband died, I think, she would take roomers in. So, thank you. Yeah, I might. No, our new bed and breakfast is gonna be plenty.
I was thinking there was a Parker that lived south of Milroy Park in that big brick house there. Is that a son of the Parkers that lived in your
No,
house?
they didn't have children.
That's not the same. No relation. No.
No relation. I thought they were a photographer.
Oh, Warren Parker, yeah, different.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Did I misspeak, Gwen or Beulah, about anything?
Harry Parker came from Wisconsin,
Okay.
and he was.
And Juno worked in the bank? Is that- Irma
Both of them worked in the bank.
Huh?
Did both of them work in the bank?
Irma and Juno?
I know one of them did, maybe it was just in the.
Thank you very much for coming. Give yourselves a clap because you've been working.
One last point, by mentioning people